This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com with an MMA news update for you. UFC 250 took place earlier tonight, and Conor McGregor tried to steal the thunder from the show, and I guess did in a way, sending out a tweet just after the event announcing that he's retired from the UFC. And this is not the first time he's done this. Joe Rogan and Dana White have already made statements about it. Joe Rogan doesn't buy it, and he says it's McGregor trying to hijack the situation, basically trying to get publicity out of UFC 250. Dana White said the world is very emotional right now. A lot of people are frustrated, mad, and confused. People have been locked up in their houses for 3.5 months. People are walking around wearing masks. There's riots going on everywhere. There's violence going on everywhere. He also said, quote, "You don't have to fight. If these guys want to sit out and retire, if that's what Conor McGregor, John Jones, and George Masvidal are feeling right now, I feel you on a certain level. I understand it. We've been here before. This has happened to us before more than once." And Dana White also added that there's a handful of people that have made his job really fun for him, and McGregor is one of them. And of course, this might have something to do with something that I spoke about in my Wrestling Observer report this week, where with UFC's deal with ESPN right now, where they basically get a flat fee for ESPN airing the pay-per-views. UFC reportedly gets about $16.7 million from ESPN per pay-per-view. And then they can also get their own international pay-per-view revenue from like Canada, the UK, and Australia, as well as when they have live events in front of crowds, live event revenue. But because they're limited in the US to only getting like $16.7 million per pay-per-view in revenue, it really limits the amount of money they have to throw around on the big name fighters. Obviously, John Jones is saying he wants to vacate the lightweight title. McGregor saying he's retired. George Masvidal is basically wanting more money as well. He is the, the BMF champion, by the way, if you don't know who George Masvidal is. In a way, even though they're going to have issues with stars, it is a good deal for the UFC because they're guaranteed to make money if they stay within their budgets on pay-per-views with this ESPN deal. So they will go on with or without stars. However, obviously, you need stars to stay popular. And if you look at actually the TV ratings for most UFC shows, Raw and SmackDown from wrestling usually get higher ratings than your average UFC on ESPN shows. The pay-per-views, when you have big main events, generally do better on pay-per-view than wrestling pay-per-views. But as far as the lower names that fight on the TV shows and the lesser fights, surprisingly, wrestling ratings are overall better than MMA ratings still. And for other results from the UFC 250 that took place tonight, Amanda Nunes had a dominant victory against Canada's Felicia Spencer in the main event. Nunes won by decision and reportedly earned $450,000 for winning, with Spencer earning $125,000 for losing, and she really earned it with the beating she took. Of course, Nunes defeated Ronda Rousey very easily when they fought. She also has a victory over Chris Cyborg. As far as bantamweights go, this card had 3 bantamweight fights with good finishes. I watched them all on Twitter. Sean O'Malley had a good knockout over Eddie Wineland, 154 of round one. And Aljamain Sterling defeated Corey Sandhagen by rear naked choke submission that actually put Sandhagen out for like a couple seconds. And Corey Garbrandt defeated Rafael Asankeo in second round KO. And that was also a pretty good knockout. I did watch that one as well. As far as Conor McGregor, honestly, he should go into WWE. That's my opinion. They could really use a boost from a guy like him. And yes, I have been against most MMA fighters going into WWE, like Cain Velasquez, you could say was a flop, even though he was signed to a $5 million contract reportedly. So whatever Cain got from that during the brief time he was with WWE was probably a good payday for him. But you can't say that his run in WWE was really that successful. Other than Brock Lesnar, Dan Severn, and Ken Shamrock, who were wrestlers before they were in WWE, I really can't think of any MMA fighter that's had any really great success in wrestling. But I think Conor McGregor could. Yeah. And I would say Ronda Rousey's a flop because she's going around bad-mouthing wrestling now, and I think her trash-talking wrestling is not a good thing. And from what I understand, I never really watched any of her matches because I didn't have any interest in it. Her matches really weren't that good, and the one that was good, she had choreographed and practiced extensively. From what I saw of her on the mic, she wasn't that good on the mic. Conor McGregor is good on the mic. I think he would kayfabe. Unlike most, actually all of the wrestlers in WWE right now, other than Brock Lesnar, to my knowledge, none of them seem to kayfabe. So I think Conor McGregor could make a lot of money and have a lot of success in wrestling. But of course, he said he's retired. He said it before, and he's not, and he's fought since. We know there's a lot of money in boxing for him. He got a massive payday for the boxing fight he had. So he's got a lot of options, and I do feel bad for Dana White for all the shit that he's having to deal with during this pandemic. Someone's commenting on here, it's going to be hard to replace McGregor in star power. Yes. And could WWE afford McGregor? I believe they could. Maybe not 100 million, but they could afford a very large payday for McGregor, and there isn't much interest in the WWE product these days. They're regularly hitting new all-time lows in ratings. So I think that the McGregor thing, that would be a good option for both WWE and him, but who knows? So I'll sign out at that. We're in the middle of the night here, so thanks for the 3 comments. Have a good one.